While U.S. aid to Ukraine has gotten caught up in Capitol Hill politics, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says he intends to support Ukraine as best he can. Austin talked about that when he sat down with Nick Schifrin in Brussels this weekend. Tonight, part two of that exclusive one-on-one interview.
I spent a week in what Ukrainians themselves define as the most critical front line down toward Crimea in the direction of Melitopol. And they've made a bit of progress there, but they have not achieved what they describe as their own minimal objectives. So what is your verdict at this point on the counteroffensive?
This is going to be a tough fight. They're going against a Russian adversary that had the time to prepare positions, dig in, positions in depth, use extensive minefields. And so as they work their way through that complex challenge, it's been a tough slog. It probably is not going as quickly as many people would like to see it go, but I think they are very determined to continue to make progress and take their sovereign territory back from the Russians. And we are determined to provide them support as long as they are committed to doing that.
There are some officials, I'll be honest, who are concerned that Ukraine will not make much progress, if at all, over the next few weeks or even months. Do you share that concern?
Well, I think Ukraine will continue to make progress. I think from talking to their leaders, I see determination, I see commitment. You may know that every month I assemble some 50 countries, the ministers of defense of 50 countries. And as I continue to assemble that group, I see resolve, I see commitment, I see a willingness to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. So that energy is still there, that commitment is still there, and that's got to be reassuring for the Ukrainians.
If I could bring you to the operational level just for one question. Ukrainians have split their forces between the east and the south, about give or take 50-50, and that means that only a portion of the Ukrainian soldiers fighting the counteroffensive are on that critical front line that I described in the southwest, toward Crimea, toward Melitopol. You may not want to judge them, but is that a problem? Is that a mistake?
You're right. I don't want to judge them, and I won't. It's my intent to support them as best we can, and I think they're putting that support to good use, and they're learning as they go along. Right. So it has evolved. It will continue to evolve, but I have to commend the bravery, the commitment of the Ukrainian soldiers, and all those who are supporting them. They are really, really resilient. So.
You've got about $5.2 billion that you can use to send Ukraine weapons drawn down from U.S. stocks, and about $1.6 billion of funds to replenish those stocks. How long can that last?
In terms of how long it can last, it just depends on what weapon systems and capabilities we go after. But we're going to, again, I would remind you that it's not just us. It's the other countries as well, in this case, that are providing support to Ukraine.
You've obviously got European allied support, but you're struggling, the administration is struggling to get the latest package through Congress. Is there a plan B if you can't get money through Congress for Ukraine?
I won't speculate on a plan B. I will say, as I engage members of Congress in both houses, I see strong support for Ukraine. And I would, as I look at the polls, across the country, there is still strong support for Ukraine. Ukraine matters. It matters not just for Ukraine, the defense of Ukraine, it matters for the world, because this is about the rules-based international order. This is about a dictator in one country choosing to invade his neighbor, and we can't allow that to happen. The international community does not want that for our future. So Ukraine matters to the world.
It's also about freedom. It's also about the kind of country that Ukraine wants to be, not under the yoke of Russia, of course. You say you don't want to talk about Plan B, but there are still political problems within Congress, even if the majority of lawmakers and Americans still want to support Ukraine. Ukraine has a level of fire right now that is very, very high, 90,000, 100,000 artillery shells a month. Does Ukraine need to reconsider how it fights if the U.S. cannot sustain the support at the levels it has?
Countries and organizations will adapt to make best use of whatever materials and weapon systems they have available. And we've watched this fight transform over time. Ukraine has become very capable in using things that they weren't using when we started this fight. I think they will adapt going forward. I think we're seeing that as we speak, and that's to be expected.
And finally, sir, last question. Is Ukraine's future in NATO?
You've heard the SecGen say that it was. You've heard a number of countries, all of the countries that are in NATO, say that they think so, and so they are the ones that will determine that. But clearly, I see strong support for Ukraine right now.
But does the U.S. believe that Ukraine's future is in NATO?
We've said that, yes.
Mr. Secretary, thank you very much.
Okay.